tout simplement injuste parce que on voit quand on sait qu'un quart des plus pauvres meurt à 62 ans et qu'on veut aujourd'hui mettre une retraite à 65, ça n'a juste aucun sens. Puis les jeunes, on sera les premiers impactés aussi. Trouver du boulot quand on garde de plus en plus les places, ça veut dire plus de chômage pour nous.
Parce que mes enfants, ils sont dans le social. Et il n'y a pas que les boulots physiques, il y a le boulot intellectuel qui fait. Elle travaille avec des enfants handicapés. Et c'est vrai que c'est une fatigue nerveuse, mentale, et c'est vraiment trop dur, quoi. Et à 64 ans, je ne les vois pas travailler dans ces conditions-là. Voilà.
L'objectif pour nous, c'est que ce projet de loi soit retiré. Voilà. Et donc, c'est une première étape. On va voir comment réagit le gouvernement. Si le gouvernement n'entend pas les grévistes, les Français et les Françaises, les citoyens, eh bien, il y aura une deuxième étape.
France came to a standstill as workers staged their biggest nationwide strike of the year so far, a year that is far from over. Yesterday, more than 1 million people took part in demonstrations against a proposed government plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. The protests were largely peaceful, but there were clashes with riot police in some cities. Elaine Cobb is in Paris for us. Elaine, good morning.
Good morning. The controversy raging around Macron's pension reforms continues in the Senate behind me and on the streets where French workers were out in force yesterday. More than 1 million people marched in towns and cities across France to say no to President Macron's reforms that will see them working longer and retiring later. This public servant says she has been working since she was 17 and was first due to retire at 60, then 62, now it will be 64. She says it's not fair to change the age mid-career. The protests drew workers from all walks of life, a reminder how the changes will affect everyone who isn't already retired or about to retire this year. The atmosphere at the Paris March ranged from light-hearted to aggressive. There were some violent clashes in Paris on the sidelines of the marches with what police called radical elements that had nothing to do with the protest. The unions say they're pleased with the turnout at the marches across the country and with the numbers who went on strike in sectors from transport to education to energy. Yesterday's nationwide strikes hit rail, road and air transport hard, causing widespread delays and cancellations. It led to blockades of ports and oil refineries and closed power plants, of concern to people already hit by an ongoing energy crisis. The unions say there are other ways to ensure there will be money to pay for today's young people when they retire. But many, like this woman, say President Macron's government doesn't listen. They talk down to us, she complained. French women say they will lose more than most and protested again here today at the Senate. The debate continues inside as outside. The unions promise to keep protesting until the reforms are withdrawn.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Power is People podcast. I am your host. It's not really important what my name is. What's most important is that the message gets across. I don't do this show for any accolades. There's no monetary incentive attached to it. I've had a passion for radio since the early 2000s, like 2002 or so, but I've never really gotten the opportunity to go ahead and do my thing full-fledged and come to you weekly like I do now. I'm really glad that you guys are listening. I hope you hit the like button as I'm speaking. Really appreciate you. Far as the things that I talk about, you know, I have a little bit of humor tied into that because I feel like humor is medicine. But really, it's the flavor for the medicine. The medicine is really these facts that I try to bring to you all. And when I say facts, the things that I say and the way I state them may sound like this is just my personal philosophy and my opinion. But I guarantee you the things that I say comes from a multitude of different sources that I've read, heard, and or watched. If you were able to speak to anybody that I know, I'm sure they tell you that I hate to be wrong. I do not like being wrong. However, I will admit when I'm wrong, and I'll go back and recant everything if I am wrong. I just want to assure you guys that I don't pull anything out of the anal region just to say in an effort to get clout or attention. That's why I ask you guys to like and or share, because it will get the word out. So I know you guys saw those clips that I presented in the beginning from two different news stations. It was footage of France. And over in France right now, people are protesting the age at which you can retire. They bumped it up 2 years. When you look at that in tandem with the life expectancy, that shit ain't cool, man. So as a part of the political reform in France, what's happening is they are proposing to bump up the retirement age from 62 to 64. A woman in the clip mentioned that the life expectancy is only 60 something. According to the World Bank website, per Google, the life expectancy in 2020 was 82 years old. Now, I want to contrast that with America. Again, quoting Google here, it says the retirement age is 66 if you were born from 1943 to 1954. I believe that is the baby boomer generation. The full retirement age increases gradually if you were born from 1955 to 1960 until it reaches 67. For anyone born 1960 or later, that would be me, full retirement benefits are payable at age 67. So that's pretty much 5 years more than France. Now, the life expectancy in the U.S. is 77 years. And this is all from the same sources, the World Bank. And this is still from 2020. Which, if we go by those numbers, those general numbers, you got about 10 years of retirement benefits until you kick the bucket. I got to look up what's going on for the black male. And again, I'm going to consult Google. And this is from www.kff.org. Interesting thing I got to say. I typed in life expectancy of a black man in the U.S. and the question comes up, what is the average lifespan of a black? Of a black. I feel like Donald Trump asked that question, man. It says life expectancy for black people was only 71.8 years compared to 77.6 years for white people and 78.8 years for Hispanic people. Life expectancy was even lower for black males at only 68 years. So I'm no mathematician, but let's do some really quick math. They say that for anyone born 1960 or later, full retirement benefits are payable at age 67. Black men, however, our life expectancy is 68. God damn, we got a bad hand dealt to us, man. Jesus Christ. 1 year of not working and getting like $3,000 a month. Like, come on. So, I don't want to hear any arguments about pull yourself up by your bootstraps and black people need to take personal responsibility and all this shit. The reason why I don't want to hear that, because personal responsibility is always a thing. But we're living in a country where we got the worst food, especially if you live in the hood. And if you are black, chances are you may not have really had much of an inheritance. Maybe you got a house. Grandma may have been wise enough to have life insurance or something. But this is what people my age, older, but really people born after 1960, this is what even my mother is looking at. I don't think this doesn't mean you can't retire early or whatever, but, just for the black male, and there's some trouble in the way. Save your money or start a business, get into real estate. Like, working for somebody just is not the answer. I really appreciate the things Dame Dash has to say on this topic. But back to the central point. The central point is that France ain't putting up with no bullshit. I feel like here in America, we have just as much reason to go out there and do the exact same thing. Even though I do not promote any type of violence, I do promote retaliation and defending yourself, but not attacking someone without a reason to attack them. But my main thing is resist. You know, there's a lot of things that we have going on here in America that need to change. But because certain politicians' pockets are getting greased, the public has to suffer. I know the Constitution is like we the people and all of that shit, and the government is supposed to be supporting us, or I should say representing us. It's supposed to be made up of us. That is bullshit. I mean, they openly mandate things. They openly tell you, you got to do this, you got to do that. And because these corporations, they get bailed out, they get to lobby for whatever laws and regulations they want in place. I mean, they're feeding us poison every day. Not to mention, like, Ukrainian refugees are getting SSI checks, and that's supposed to be for us. Like, our tax dollars are going into that. Granted, I'm against taxes, but that's because they can take that money and disperse it wherever they want. We pay taxes for NASA and shit. NASA never did nothing for me. They never found nothing in space to help my life. I haven't seen, no moon rock help the hood or anything like that. At what point do Americans, and I just mean people that live on this continent, at what point do we say enough is enough? Do they have to come into our houses? A la Breonna Taylor, Anjanette Young, Corrine Gaines, Tatiana Jefferson. The list goes on and on, man. Like, it's not impossible that that's where they would go. They already going there. So when people talk about voting, in my opinion, that takes too long and that's shady. There's so many different laws on the books that we have no control over. It's ridiculous. And when they can just arbitrarily bump the age of retirement up when they want to, that sounds like slavery to me. That's why I don't get deep into politics, and I don't get deep into the story of the politics and what's going on and why things are the way they are, because I look at the core. And at the very center of all of these issues, it's control, aka slavery, versus freedom. I don't care what you're talking about. That's where it breaks down to. Taking that perspective will allow you to see through any propaganda and any BS. Granted, you do need to have some facts as well, but I guarantee you everything that they're trying to sell you is artificial. And because it's artificial, it's in their benefit. But I look at the people of France and I applaud them for standing up for what they believe is right, 100%. Even the January 6th insurrection in Washington, I say to myself, wow, of all the people that got a gripe with the United States government, and I mean historically, gripes, legit gripes, these are the people that come out and say is enough. We've had it. You know what I'm saying? Enough is enough. They're that pissed off, but they say, fuck that, we going to the manager. You understand me? So even with them, I look at it, I say, hey, good for you that you stood up and went to the right place to try and get something done. However, the reason why you did it was dumb as hell. When I went downtown Chicago to the Daily Center, we were outside protesting the death of, the murder of Michael Brown. In 2014, I walked and marched with the people for a while, chanting whatever we were chanting. But in my heart, I'm like, this marching is not enough. It's nice. We're getting the word out. They can see that people are upset that they would take their time to do this. So good on anybody who's an activist. But when I look at the American public on the whole, if anything's going to change, we have to start caring for one another, the masses, no matter what color, creed, or whatever that you are. We got to start working together to make this government better for us, to make this land better for us. So it was great protesting, but the protest has to be more It has to be a way of life. It has to be internalized. And when I say that, I say it just like you got to know right from wrong and abide by that and support that. And it's not easy, but we can take it step by step. I was speaking to someone not long ago, and I was saying, it doesn't have to be a physical fight. Granted, if it comes to that, I urge you to be ready. If you're around here thinking people shouldn't have guns, you are being brainwashed. I would suggest you learn how to use a gun, and then you won't be so scared of them anymore. But really, the right from wrong, knowing that should come first. A lot of us, we do not honor right from wrong in this society, and we don't really pay attention to it, and we don't support it because a lot of things are confusing for us. A lot of things are hidden away from us. We still purchase things from companies who have a product like a cell phone. In my opinion, and this is what I think. I think when we buy things like an iPhone and there's people in some African country that's third world that are dying and endangering their health in order to find the minerals that make up this phone, and then we pay for it, it's got to be karmically linked to something negative. It's got to be. The universe and energy is omnipresent. It's everywhere. And if you support evil, you encourage evil. So even when you spend your dollar bill on something that's linked to child slavery, for instance, you're encouraging that evil to persist. We all are. I'm guilty too. But I'm trying to do better. But it's one of the ways that we can protest and that we can fight back. Spend your dollar consciously, speak consciously, and know the difference between right and wrong and slavery and freedom. It's not that easy to undo conditioning, but I'm going to keep saying what I got to say, and hopefully things will start to click for listeners, and hopefully then you can talk to people. Tell me if I'm not making any fucking sense. I'll hear you out. But I know I'm making sense. I know I'm right. It's just that people are too scared and somewhat comfortable. But hey, this message was said out of love, out of care for everything in life. But I honestly do want to see a change. Thank you guys. This has been the Real Power is People podcast. Peace.